sad. I mean, he sounds like he's in pain.
I think he's having a good time.
You do? When he's getting his ass.
I mean, I just think it's one of those things where he's like, just surprised. Surprised is all I have to say.
He definitely didn't see it coming. No way in hell.
He did not.
There's no way to know exactly if it's the bull that is being branded into the bull's ass or if it's the bull who's being branded that's screaming.
That's.
It could be. I'm gonna go one more time. Here we go. I love how it breathes out of its nose.
He's happy.
Yeah. Oh no, that was definitely a moan of pleasure for sure.
I love it, man. How you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Remington?
I'm doing good, bud. It's always a pleasure seeing you, man. Always. Next week at this time, we'll be face to face down there.
Yes, we will. I suppose I should introduce the show.
Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to the Listen to This Bull live show. This is the show where we talk about bullshit in the insurance industry, and you can ask us questions, and we will answer it. And all you have to do is put your question in the chat session. What we're doing today is a little bit special.
We're just going to answer no script.
Whatever.
Going off of anything we want.
We got no topic. We got nothing to talk about. I mean, we got stuff to talk about, but we're not going to specify what that is. So you can set it. You got no guest, no topic, no rules. It's just right. Come on in. Ask your question in the comments. And what I'm going to do is post an invite link. And if we like your question, we're going to pull you onto the show. We're going to have you ask your question live, and we're going to talk to you about it. So if you have anything that has anything to do with insurance claims or other stuff, I guess, because we have no rules. I said no rules. Now I have to back that up. I think I screwed myself. You know what I found out today, Remington?
What'd you find out?
There is another Matt with one T in the YouTube world.
I know how you are about your name and the one T thing. Did that rub you wrong?
No, it was unique. What's crazy about that, though, is that person has a podcast for insurance adjusters.
Ah, got it. So
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
What a freaking small world. I've met two other Matt with one T's my entire life. Only two. So he'd be the third one if I ever meet the guy. He's got one T, and he's basically my evil twin. He's got a beard.
He's got a beard?
He's got a beard.
I guarantee you this. I'll put $1 million on it. There's no way it's as healthy as yours.
Well, I think you'll win that bet.
I think so too.
I think you'll win that bet. I kind of want to look him up just to see what his name was real quick, because it blew my mind. If I just search for Matthew with only one T.
We have I got a 65 square approval from Erie question. We got some questions coming in.
Pull it up while I find this guy. Ask the question.
Ryan got a 65 square approval from Erie. $33K total. Looking at appraisal. Is that the correct next step? And what should I expect from it? I have a couple questions. My first follow-up is, what state are you in? That's what I would like to know. But if they've already approved the entire roof and you're not liking the cost of $33K, I certainly would take the next step of either, number one, informal negotiations, which I know typically doesn't happen until it gets to an attorney, or number two, knocking into appraisal. That's what I would do, certainly. And I say the informal negotiations when it gets to me, because they like to do that, number one. And number two, it's less cost for my client. So that's why I do that sometimes. But if I was you, Ryan, if it's they're paying 33 and you think it should be, 60, I would certainly knock it into appraisal. Matt, do you have any comments on that?
I wasn't paying attention to any of that. I found the guy.
He got a full roof approved, but he doesn't like the cost. It's pretty much
Yeah. So if you don't have enough to make a profit, then is this a contractor?
I don't know, and I don't know what state it's in.
Isn't reasonably priced for my market. Theirs is. Is that what they're saying?
I was looking at this one right here.
65 square approval from Erie, 33 grade total. Looking at appraisal.
Ryan's
is that the correct next step? Is that the same person?
Yep. Well, no, it's not the beginning of time. Ryan's talking about a claim from Erie, and then beginning of time's talking about a claim from Allstate. I took Ryan's question.
Oh, yeah. There's not enough information here, Ryan. So what are the claim facts here? You got an approval. The next step isn't always appraisal. Appraisal is for dispute resolution. Is there a dispute?
It has to be if he's saying it's 33K, but he's definitely looking for more money. That's what I'm gathering.
I would assume so.
Or why would you even talk about appraisal?
You expand on the 2 parts of the exclusion section. Oh, this is a good one. I'm going to post a link. I'm going to pull him on. That's a good one. Alex and everybody else that's watching, here comes a link. It's in the comments. If you guys have a good question and I ask you to, I want you to click that link. It's going to put you in our wing, and then we can pull you on when we can, and you can ask it live. The only thing that we want you to do is we want you to have some headphones of some kind, because otherwise there's some echo and it's crazy. All right. So Alex, if you don't mind clicking that, I'd like to pull you on to talk about that, because that's a great idea. So this dude his channel is called Adjuster TV. He does not wear a hat. He doesn't have a hat at all, because this is a public adjuster hat, and you can't wear this if you're not a public adjuster. He's an insurance adjuster, and the whole thing is about it's insurance adjuster training, how to be an insurance adjuster. It is so crazy though, man. He's got 1 T, and he's my opposite. He is my evil twin.
Hey,
so
I bet he doesn't have a class on how defense attorneys need to know what an IA does.
No, I bet he doesn't. He should, though, because I have a class on what first party plaintiff attorneys should do when there's a public adjuster involved.
I'll be there next week.
Well, you have to be there.
I will be there.
An instructor, you jackass.
I'll be there. What was beginning of time's first question?
Let's go back to that. Wait. Oh, no. Pay attention. Okay. No dispute with the amount approved. So no, don't go to appraisal, but it's just a low amount.
Okay. Let me say this. I think when he says no dispute with amount approved, I think he's maybe talking scope.
No dispute with the amount of approved. Maybe he's saying that there is some undisputed amounts.
Hey, here's what you need to do, Ryan. Do this. Talk to an appraiser that knows what they're doing. Show them the estimates and see what he believes it should be done for. And then you, as a contractor or PA or an attorney, I don't know which one of those hats you wear, make a business decision. Should this go to appraisal, and should I pay somebody $1,500 to appraise this loss for me? That's what you need to do.
Yeah. So here's what I think. I don't think you have an estimate. I think that or maybe you do, and you're just saying that the amount that was approved, there's nothing wrong with those items, but it's just low dollar amount. And if that is the case, then you have a true amount of loss difference that every state would be happy with. I'm not a lawyer. That's why I have him. Hey, I pointed in the right direction first try. I'm pretty proud of myself. You realize how hard it is to figure out which direction to point when you're on these things? Anyway, it's crazy. Those weather people are amazing. Anyway, so if you don't have an estimate, or if that is the case, it's just a low dollar amount for what the scope of work is, then yeah, that is what appraisal is good for. But you might just submit your invoice to the carrier and say, this is how much we charge for that scope of work. And if they disagree with the amount that is now being incurred by the policyholder, then it's up to them to go to appraisal.
Yeah.
So the scope of work is what you're approving, and the homeowner or policyholder, if you're a contractor, needs to send in a copy of your estimate or invoice and say, this is how much I'm being charged.
Or Matt,
So
they could go forward with the work and then submit a supplement. See how that goes.
I mean, that's risky, but
It
yeah,
is.
they could.
It
They
is.
could.
So you got some options there. I would go to appraisal if I was you. Get it figured out before the work is performed.
Remind me to go back to that question if that dude doesn't jump on with us. If Alex doesn't get on, I want to go back to that. That's a good question. Why is OP denied even when there's multiple trades that are going to be completed? Some pay and some don't. This is a very state-specific question. So some states definitely give you a lot more leverage here. But ultimately, the way most insurance companies have in their own guidelines, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Remington, but for most guidelines that I've seen, and I know that you've seen more than me, so in their estimatic section, when they talk about how to write a scope, so their adjusters all do roughly the same thing. That's the whole point of the guidelines, is to be consistent. And they'll say that you should pay overhead and profit with the ACV payment if a general contractor is likely to be used. But if the use of a general contractor is questionable, then they will only pay the overhead and profit with the depreciation payments after you prove that there was a general contractor involved. That's generally what most of the insurance carriers' guidelines say. Does that sound about right, Remington?
No, it certainly does. They came up with this whole 3 trade situation. That's not plaintiffs' attorneys. These are attorneys for insurance carriers that write the guidelines. They came up with this, so everybody
Those guidelines are broad
with it. Yeah, but
it doesn't specify trades or anything in there. It just says if it's reasonably likely that a general contractor would be used, and so somebody is being taught what to say to find out if it's questionable or not.
100%, and also there's some states like Florida that have case law specifically on this. And is it reasonably likely that the policyholder was to hire a GC to perform that work? Then they should offer O&P. So this
and the ACV value of it, even it's not an additional coverage. It's an incurred or paid when incurred kind of an item in Florida.
Yeah.
So even if a GC isn't used, the ACV value of that is generally paid. So if you're in a state, though, that they don't have those kind of requirements, then I just think it's interesting that they keep it so general, right? I mean, they don't specify trades in their guidelines, and they don't specify complexity in their guidelines. So where does that information come from?
Right. And guys, even if it's in their guidelines, they're going to fight it anyway. I mean, that's just what they do. I see it all the time. I see it every day. So keep on fighting it. Keep on pushing back.
Keep on fighting. Dude, my arm looked huge when I did that.
That's the first time it's ever looked huge.
It's true. Alex is in the wings. I'm going to pull him on. I hope you're ready, Alex.
Let's roll.
Hey, guys.
How you doing?
What's going on? Good. How about you?
Doing good, man.
Not too bad. So this is a good question. Do you mind explaining a little bit more about what you're asking for the audience?
Yeah. So you actually posted a video a while back about the two parts of the exclusion section. You call them the red versus the blue. So they have the stuff that stuff that is never covered no matter what. And it usually falls under that anti-concurrent causation section. And then you have another section of the exclusions that is an exclusion, but it's not excluded as a cause of loss.
Right. So the way that most policies work, and there are some policies that will have a third section. So it all depends on how the policy is written. So this is very generalized. But for most HO3 policies, HO6s, actually HO8s as well, maybe all of them. Now that I'm thinking about it, all the homeowners policy forms that I'm aware of have the exclusions set out this way. So and it might not be section 1 in the exclusion and then section 2 is not. It might be flip-flopped, but one of those sections is going to be anti-concurrent causation. We do not cover the items that are listed under this paragraph. Any of these things, no matter if they happened in sequence with, at the same time as, before, after, while it was on top of, the mother of the consequence of this action, it doesn't matter. We never cover these items. Nuclear war, terrorist acts, things like that are usually listed. Sometimes it has wear and tear. Sometimes it has improper installation, negligent construction under there. You got to be careful, because if it has those things under there, then that policy is probably going to give a lot of outs for the insurance carrier. And then there's the second section, and that's usually the, we do not cover these items listed here. If these, or we do not cover these items, we do not cover damage caused by these items. That's what it says. So
Right.
it becomes the cause of loss. So then, depending on your state, you're either in a proximate cause state, or what's Georgia, Remington?
You talking about current causation?
Yeah, so some states handle that a little bit differently. So there's some states that will handle concurrent causation based on the percentage of which one is acting and which ones aren't. And they'll actually reduce the value of the claim based on the percentage of which cause, the excluded cause or the not excluded cause. But for most states, if you've got an excluded cause of loss and an unexcluded cause of loss, the unexcluded cause of loss will prevail, and they'll owe for it. But ultimately, if the included cause of loss is caused by the excluded cause of loss, then it's not going to be covered in many states as well. So it really depends on your state. So you're going to have to find an attorney in your state. What state are you in, Alex?
Virginia, but operate in Maryland as well. Maryland is where I'm getting tripped up the most with this.
So for that, I'm not 100% familiar, but I'm pretty sure it's
Almost as bad as Georgia.
I've heard. I have so many doubts, though. But I think everybody thinks that the state that they work in is the worst. So who knows? Anyway, so if you can figure out what the cause of loss is, and the easiest way to go about doing that is to ask yourself a but-for argument. If not but for X, would Y have been caused? Right. And if the answer is no, then whatever X is possibly your proximate cause. And so you're going to go down the chain of events. Let's say you have wear and tear on a roof and there's wind damage. If not but for the wear and tear, would the wind damage have occurred?
Right.
If you can't say no, then wear and tear might be your cause of loss. So if it wasn't for the wear and tear, wind damage would not have occurred because the wind wasn't strong enough to have damaged a sound roof, then wear and tear might be your cause of loss. Okay. It depends. So you have to figure out what the real cause of loss is, how your state applies that, how the policy applies that, and then figure out what section of the exclusions that's in. And that's going to make a lot of differences. And then keep an eye on any ensuing loss provisions.
Yeah, we're, I guess not to name names, but I'm going to name them anyway. The Allstate policy, it's not written like a traditional HO3, of course, the ISO form. And their sections aren't breaking out as clear, and they kind of loop everything under that, consisting of or caused by clause, which is kind of tripping us up on, wear and tear issues, mold, rust. So just wanted to see what
I'll tell you what, if you want to send me a copy of one of those Maryland Allstate policies, I'll take a look at it. But every Allstate policy that I've seen, the house and home policies and things that are out now, they seem to have the exclusionary section. It might just be worded slightly differently, but I think I'd be able to point out how that is for that policy. I remember it being in the house and home that was sold in Georgia anyway. It definitely had those two sections, but it was worded a little weird. And I've seen policies that have all property under one, and then they exclude dwelling, and they're talking about all the other property under another section, and then they go into all the property again, and you're bouncing back and forth on whether or not the dwelling is included in the section that they are describing. And that might be a house and home policy. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that's the issue.
Yeah. Well, that, and then you throw in all the endorsements, and then you're playing mix match. Got my Elmer's glue out, and I'm cutting out pieces of the policy, all sticking it together.
I've got a developer working on a way of putting in a PDF, and I'm going to give way too much information away right now. I was about to give away something I shouldn't have given away, Remington.
Hey, a good example when I first started in this industry, thousands of cases ago, is when you see an Allstate estimate and they write for 5 rooms of interior, but there's 0 of the roof is covered.
Oh,
right?
it's a classic.
Yeah, I mean that's just what they like to do. So that's just an example where they say it's wear and tear to the roof. However, they're going to cover the interior damages that are sustained to the property. So I see that a lot, and I always got on the phone. I was like, "Well, what did it come through the window? Did it decide to jump through the window and then damage the room?" But no, I mean, Matt did a excellent job of explaining it. And that if you haven't seen that video where he separates the exclusions, everybody needs to go take a look at that. It's great information.
Yeah, and if you accidentally type in Matthew and you come across a guy that is, he's got a black beard with some gray in it, but he doesn't wear a hat. That's not the right guy. It's completely different Matt with 1 T, and he's the evil version of me. So,
I used to be an independent adjuster, and I subscribed to his channel like way back when he first started. So I still get his emails, and it kind of throws me off a little bit when I get them.
Does it?
No, not really.
See, we've had you probably became a PA because of me. Is that right? Because you didn't like him, but you liked
whatever
me.
helps you sleep
That's
at
what it
night,
was.
Matt. That's
That
okay.
guy. My hat looks weird.
It was the hat. It was the hat that did it.
I knew it. The hat does so many things. It also puts this weird shadow line, so I can't get lighting in my studio properly. But you guys expect me to wear this damn thing now?
You need a hat light. You need a wire, a wire through the back of your hat on the inside that shines down.
That would be actually pretty cool.
Try it out.
It'd be like an astronaut helmet in movies where they always have lights pointed at their face, and you just know the actors can't see shit because of it. They can't see, they're walking into walls on the set for sure, but you get to see their face and their reaction to things. Yeah, I think that's funny. Anyway.
All right, guys.
Well,
thanks for answering my question, Gal. Have a good day.
Yeah, you guys have a good one. Boot. I booted him. All right, we need another question.
Love it.
More O&P stuff. I think that we talked a little bit about that with Chase. Conrad. Using Jen Silver's method, there's no rejecting O&P. Do you know who Jen Silver is, Remington?
I know that name. I couldn't say I met that person before. Have you?
She was on the show.
APA?
This is how I know you don't watch the episodes you're not on.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I do, but I don't pay attention to all the names, man. Come on, give me a break.
Jen Silver, she's got this. She's in the finance side of things, so she's got a company that does financing, but she teaches contractors to not talk to insurance companies and to just, this is my estimate, here's how much we charge, and stick to it because they're contractors. And I think that that's great. I think it's brilliant, really, because it eliminates so many problems. As a public adjuster, if I had a contractor estimate in hand and saying, this is how much we're charging, then I could argue that that is the amount of loss all day. This is how much the insured has incurred. And if it's financed, you can even say this is how much it's spent. So that meets most of the policy guideline requirements that I've seen. So the only thing they'd be able to argue is whether or not there's coverage or not. And if they disagree with the amount of it, then they can go straight to appraisal. But that's what she teaches. So he's saying that there's no rejecting O&P because that's how much they charge. And that is what it is. I mean, they can still reject it. Let me ask you this, Remington. Sometimes overhead and profit is excluded in the policy. I've seen policies where they specify that they will not pay overhead and profit on roofs. Have you seen one of those yet?
I probably have. I can't remember necessarily. How about this? I've never had defense counsel for an insurance company use that provision in the policy against me.
You probably won't for another year or so. This is a brand new kind of a thing. I've only seen it really recently, and it blew my mind. But let me ask you this, because I'm curious now, and we're just thinking out loud. So you can be wrong about this. Putting you on the spot though, because I'm that kind of a guy.
Let's roll.
If there is a provision in a policy that goes against state law, is it valid, or does that portion of the policy, can you actively ignore it?
It matters. It truly does. So let me give you an example. I'm sitting right now in Atlanta, Georgia. Breach of contract is 6 years. That's what the statute says. However, insurance policies here in Georgia, they either give you 1 or 2 years, right? So is that considered a violation of the law? Or is that two parties coming to an agreement in which the courts do not want to stick their nose into and break up any type of agreement that they make together? Okay. It really is statutory. And for example, South Carolina, 3 years across the board, insurance claims, suit limitations. They don't care what is inside that policy. And that's what it specifically states. Just like in Florida, the statute is 5 years across the board, the suit limitations period, regardless of what's in that insurance policy. So it's got to be statutory specific, eliminating language within a policy and saying that that is not enforceable, because that's what happens in South Carolina and that's what happens in Florida. We obviously don't have that here in Georgia. I have cases in those states right now. So that's why I know this information, and I'm licensed in Florida.
All right. What if it's case law that makes it invalid? Is it something that you're only going to get them to apply it the way the case law says if it's challenged in court?
Usually case law just gives a more in-depth explanation to a statute. That's the best way to look at it. It'll say, hey, in the state of Florida, you have 3 years to, well, how about this? In the state of Florida, it says you have 3 years to file a claim on a named storm, not even file a lawsuit, file a claim on a named storm. That's what the statute says. Now, the case law is going to be more specific and say, however, if that homeowner knew or should have known of the storm damage the day after Hurricane Irma or Hurricane Michael hit the property, they probably shouldn't have waited 3 years to do it, and therefore their claim is barred. Does that make sense? So it goes in more specific details of specific situations, applying it to the statute.
Okay, so if I'm thinking out loud here, if insurance carrier charges a premium based on the value of the home being rebuilt completely, right? It's the complete total. The total amount of loss is what the policy premium is based on, right?
Okay.
Right? That's true so far, right? So if that is the case, then they're obviously accounting for a general contractor being involved and overhead and profit for the entire project. So if it isn't a total loss, is there an illegal windfall of funds there if they don't pay for it on a specific trade when they should? There would have to be. How would you even argue that is the real question? And there's no way to know the answer to this. I'm not putting you on the spot. You can give me an opinion, but that's all it would be. But if you were to try to argue that issue, would you need a case that is set up specifically for that issue? And then would you have to, how would you even think about going about that? That would be a crazy thing to attempt.
It would be crazy. If you think about it this way, especially, your scenario is a total loss. Think if the homeowner had to hire a separate company for each particular trade. It's going to be a lot more than hiring a GC to do the work.
Oh, definitely.
So why would the insurance carrier even agree to that or write that in their policy? I understand on some, I guess you said that not paying for overhead and profit is specific on roofs though, right? Not the
So for that exclusion it was.
Yeah. You hear me on that? So
Yeah.
I get it if they say just roofs, but just roofs doesn't mean gutters too. What about the stucco behind the flashing behind the stucco that needs to be repainted and redashed? Things like that I think are different components than a roof. When I think of roof, and then when I argue this all the time, I'm thinking the tile on the roof, the architectural shingles on the roof. I'm not talking gutters and stuff yet. That's a whole nother trade, in my opinion. So I think now, since there is going to be policy language that's saying that we're not paying O&P on roofs only, there's definitely going to be case law coming out deciding what is a roof and what are the different components to a roof.
You ever wonder why insurance companies, and maybe I shouldn't say this live, you ever wonder why insurance companies don't argue that overhead and profit should only be on the labor component? Kind of like we argue that they shouldn't depreciate labor. If it's overhead and profit, why are they getting overhead and profit on the material cost? You ever wonder why they don't argue that?
I think
now you're wondering it.
I think they try to, but they don't say it like you say it. Because them trying to depreciate labor, every time that I know of, again, I'm not an attorney in every state in the country, but the states I've practiced in, when it's actually gotten to Court of Appeals or anything of that effect, they say that's, they turn it down and they say you can't depreciate labor, But anyway.
Good faith public adjusting. Carriers are trying to force their preferred contractors to perform third-party estimates to prove fair market value. They are always low. They disregard the incurred estimate and my third-party estimate. That is true. That happens to me a lot. Here's the real kick to the nuts on this one. If you look at state statutes under auto, a lot of times they specify that if there's going to be a competitive bid, that it has to come from they might even use the word bona fide, but a reputable is sometimes used. So either bona fide or reputable repair firm in order to give a legitimate third party. And so part of the auto policies would require you to prove that you are giving a comparative bid from a reputable or bona fide third party. Is the preferred contractor automatically reputable or a preferred vendor? And can you even use the auto language in the statutes on other property? What do you think?
If you're asking me, no, I don't think that a preferred contractor, look, we all know the preferred contractor works off of volume, right? So their costs are going to be less than a GC that's in that city. So we're talking oranges and apples to me. However, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this either, I understand why they do get these comparative estimates. I do.
Of course.
It makes sense. They're smart.
They have to determine whether or not the amount of loss that you're presenting to them is within reason or not. That's the whole idea behind it. It makes sense. If they were doing it in good faith, it makes sense.
Right.
But a lot of times, those preferred vendors give special discounts to the insurance company, or the insurance company is telling them specifically what to estimate for. I know that happens because I've had a lot of these preferred vendors tell me that.
Absolutely.
What is that? I'll tell
Absolutely.
You
and it happens because they want to keep the insurance company's business, these water mitigation, companies and everything else. That's where it really gets really unfair, if you will. And then it leaves that policyholder with a house with, shortcuts right and left.
When is it considered a RICO issue or collusion or something along those lines? At what point does it become that kind of a thing?
I've been involved in a couple of those, and it is a high burden. You got to prove that these two companies it's a systematic process for them working together and colluding together, and to put the consumer in a bad position. And I don't want to name companies, but I'll just keep it with water mitt companies that we see all the time on vans going up and down the highway, where these are preferred vendors, where they get a direction to pay, and they are actually told what they can and what they cannot do, regardless if it's compliable with the IICRC or not.
Yeah. 3 days of drying, period.
And it's all because of one reason, because they want to save the insurance company money, while at the same time they want to keep this high volume of business. That's where the RICO starts.
Complete bullshit.
That's why I'll point at you for that. Look, I'm getting better at
Look,
this.
first try. I'm impressed. Yeah.
I love it. But does that make sense, Matt? What the example I gave?
Yeah. No, it does. It's actually the perfect example for it. We often have way too many roof related examples.
Yeah.
I feel like we alienate the water guys. Lump sum sometimes work. Have you had contractors give you lump sum estimates? Have you dealt with cases that include lump sum stuff yet?
Yeah, I have. I'm actually currently fighting travelers on that right now, literally, because they don't want a lump sum estimate. They want line items. And I said, where in the policy do they, make it mandatory to have a line item exactimate estimate, and that's what we're fighting about.
So when they say line items, they don't just want a list of all the things you're going to do and then a dollar amount at the end. That's the lump sum. They want you to break out how much each individual item actually costs. Is that right?
That's correct. And that's what I mean. They want to know how many screws are going to be on the roof and how much it costs.
Right. Which is exactly what a reputable or bona fide contractor would do during a retail kind of a deal. Obviously.
Have you had with this? Hey, Matt, have you gotten away is not the right term. Have you had the insurance carrier look past a lump sum estimate, and how?
If the scope of work isn't disputed at all, then the lump sum estimate is argued as a incurred cost kind of a deal. I think every time I've had a lump sum estimate from a carrier, or not from a contractor, I think we've ended up in appraisal.
Got it.
So I don't know if I've gotten past it. I don't remember one where it was accepted. So I'm not a huge fan of the lump sum deal. This is something that a lot of contractors employ as a tactic, and just to get it away from Xactimate or something along those lines, or they're using Xactimate, which makes it worse. If you're going to do a lump sum, do it with a different program, because if you're using Xactimate and you put all those items in with the same price list and everything is listed at the top of your estimate, and then it spits out a number that's 30% less than what's on your lump sum, then it just looks like you're gouging. Whether that's reality or not, it looks bad.
Yeah.
It's bad optics. So if you're doing a lump sum, I don't think you should be using Xactimate. But, at the same time, it would be easier, instead of doing a lump sum for the entire project, do a lump sum for individual parts. Tear off roof, lump sum. Install shingle or install roof covering, lump sum. That way it's broken down by trade almost. You could do lump sums by trade. It'd be a lot easier for a public adjuster or an attorney to argue, because that's generally how the general contractor would receive bids from these trades anyway. So plumbing, this dollar amount, instead of the entire project being $1 amount, have it broken down by trades and overall general concepts. If you would hand a homeowner an estimate that had 5 line items on it, then if you're going to do a lump sum, your estimate should have 5 line items on it, and those should have dollar amounts on them. I think that makes sense. But personally, the best thing to do is just to develop an estimating program that you use, and that is what you charge, retail or not, insurance claim or not, doesn't matter. This is what you always charge. That would make life a lot easier for public adjusters and attorneys, and you probably wouldn't need a public adjuster or an attorney if you're doing it that way. So you should put us out of business.
Insurance companies will never put us out of business.
No, they won't. No, they'll always find something to do, right? Is there an answer to fight this without going to court? Trying to force contractors to form third parties. So why would you fight it? So look, okay, let me put this back up. And actually, you know what? Whoever you are, whatever your actual name is, unless your mother named you Good Faith, that'd be an interesting name. Um, whoever you actually are, click on that link that's up above in the comments and come into the wings if you don't mind. I'd like to. You've asked some detailed questions, and let's pull you on and see if we can't get to the bottom of what you're really talking about. All right.
I mean, why don't you just go to appraisal?
See that? I mean, that's the conversation there, right? So if he ends up coming on, I think that's where we're going to end up going because it almost feels like an appraisal. If they're sending out a third party to verify a bid or something along those lines, I've had that work in my favor many times. But it does feel like an appraisal process. But I think that the problem is that the contractors or the PAs don't really understand that the insurance company needs to know first whether or not it is unreasonable, the amount that's being charged. And so sometimes they need that third party just to let them know if it's unreasonable. And then they can write an Xactimate estimate and see if it's close to that and determine if it's reasonable based on that, I suppose. But just because they're an insurance adjuster doesn't mean that they know how to use Xactimate. And just because they're an insurance adjuster doesn't mean they know what the scope of work should be. So sometimes having that third party just to determine if your scope is ridiculous or not is a good idea for them. And I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's an act of bad faith.
Yeah.
Unless the intent is to delay. But, proving intent sucks. John Felding knows quite a bit about Maryland. That's tattoo, neck tattoo, neck tat. That's John Fielding.
I owe John a phone call, by the way. I'm going to have to put that on my notes to do. Yep.
I had a couple of beers with him in Florida the last time he was down for one of the NCI classes, and we talked about engineering possibilities for energy creation using ocean currents. Fucking neck tattoo had that conversation with me. Yeah. Because you have a tattoo across your neck. It doesn't mean you're not an intelligent person. It was a great conversation.
I love it.
It led to a lot of good ideas from both of us. Conrad, just click the link, man. I might as well put you on the show at this point. Has Conrad ever been on? I don't think he has.
What about like live at a conference or something? Maybe he has. I don't know.
Recorded something with him once, I think, but it never ended up making it onto the Listen to This Bull channel. Conrad, click the damn link already. Why haven't I pulled you on yet? I feel stupid at this point. I'm sorry for just, I guess, taking advantage of you. I'm taking you for granted almost. Shit.
Well, when he comes in the wings, let's definitely pull him on.
I was really close to saying this might be the first show that my wife wasn't watching, but there she is.
Sounds like Stump Remington night. No such thing. No such thing, Ashley.
I did put you on a spot on a few things.
I love it. Keep it.
Yeah.
That's what we do. That's what we do.
Does going to appraisal work in Georgia? You got this one, bud.
Okay, so hang with me here, Josh. If you go to Ryan's scenario, it does work. Okay, you're going to appraisal. You don't like the cost. You don't like the cost, so you decide to go to appraisal. Okay, that's with no scope dispute. If there's a scope dispute, it does not work in Georgia. However, I always say this, like even if it's a desk adjuster or an attorney on the other side, just say, hey, let's go old school appraisal. Let's send our two guys out there. Let's let them go appraise this loss like they have for, the last 100 years in this industry. Sometimes it works. So keep that in mind, because it's literally worked a lot more than I ever thought it would. And it does. So keep that in mind.
I think it's funny that in some states we fight really hard to get into appraisal. And in some states we have to fight not to go to appraisal on every claim.
Yeah.
There are states where I find that the more leverage that the policyholder has, the more likely the insurance company wants to go to appraisal. And the less leverage that the policyholder has, the less likely the insurance company wants to go to appraisal. So if the insurance company is trying to force you into appraisal all the time, congratulations, you live in a fantastic state. Good for you.
I had a AOB. This was a couple years ago. AOB client in Florida, and every time it was a State Farm, and they did a lot of supplements. Every time it was a supplement, State Farm, boom, appraisal, boom, appraisal. Like it, you could just call it every single time. I don't know, man. It's a pick your poison. That's how I think it goes. What is that?
I'm about to drink a
It's a
hard
seltzer.
seltzer.
I was about to say, it looks like a seltzer.
Topo Chico, tangy lemon lime. So Frank's wife, Tara, for those of you that don't know, I'm down in Florida without my family. I'm living in a freaking trailer because we've got a startup. The National Claims Institute is in Florida, and I'm running it, and it's rough. I'm away from the family. So I'm on Frank's back deck in his covered porch, which, by the way, is the most inviting damn porch I've ever been on. I don't know what it is about this damn porch, but
Agreed.
it's crazy how much I want to sit outside when I'm at Frank's house. It's weird. But anyway, she drinks a hard seltzer every night. And I don't want to say that I want to try one because I feel like that's very feminine. But is it?
It's not. It's not anymore, man. Everybody's
Yeah.
you're just like one of the last ones on the train. One of my buddies this summer at the lake was like, "Hey, try one of these," and I did, and it was like, "Wow, this is it's eye opening."
Is that sexist of me? Am I a sexist for saying that?
No.
Am I redeemed by drinking this?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
It's very subtle. It doesn't taste like a regular Topo Chico at all. Topo Chicos have a ton of carbonation, like a shit ton. That's what makes them so good. This has a lot less. It's not terrible. Conrad, why aren't you in the wings right now? Jeez. Click the link. Click the link, Conrad. All right. The other guy didn't. Good faith guy didn't. Did we answer this really then? Whoever he is?
I mean, I think
we
so.
did. I think we did. I think
if you disregard with their price, then go to appraisal. I mean, you got to make a business decision though.
So Josh was asking if the lump sum method and then appraisal in Georgia works. Does the lump sum work to get to appraisal here?
Sometimes. I think that was kind of the example that you provided, Matt.
Honestly, I think that you actually have a better chance of getting to appraisal in a lump sum than you do if you were to break it down. Because in this state, the courts messed up badly. And they basically said, and I probably have to say that I'm not an attorney. And then I have to ask Remington to write that freaking disclaimer that we need to have in the beginning of this show all the time already. I'm not an attorney. This is just an opinion. This is not legal advice. But in Georgia, you a lot of times have a hard time getting to appraisal if there's a single line item different. If you have a line item that the carrier doesn't have, and it could be anything. It could be nails. It could be ridge cap, even though their ridge cap is included in the waste. Technically, they're still agreeing to the same scope, but they'll still argue it. The point is, if you have a different line item on there than what they have, they'll argue that that's not appraisable because in Georgia, the courts decided that amount of loss did not include differences of scope. Difference of amount of loss does not have difference of scope. They did not say difference of scope of work. They didn't say difference of scope of loss. They didn't specify what they meant by scope. In fact, they're probably talking about mouthwash. But if you have a lump sum, you can kind of avoid that. You should have that argument, Remington. Please, for the love of God, in a courtroom say, I thought they were talking about mouthwash. That is clearly very ambiguous. That would be great.
There you go. There you go. And for the viewers out there, when this was to be reviewed by the court, the plaintiff's attorney actually didn't even show up to the hearing. So that didn't help, but leave it at that.
Wait, what? I need popcorn. Tell us this story.
The plaintiff's attorney did not show up to the hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misheard you. I thought you said they brought this show up. Have you had an attorney bring this up for you yet?
Yes, yes, they have. They have.
Did it hurt?
No, I didn't care. What are they going to say? What are they going to say? Your friend has a beautiful ginger beard? Like, come on, you know?
Well, yeah. Business. I mean, many people say that. So
no, it's been nothing held against me whatsoever by any means.
Not even my ginger beard.
No, I think they're actually kind of taken back from it.
I'm going to put my beard on your chest next time I see you. So I've had a few links of the show sent to me on claims, especially when it was obviously a claim where I'm discussing the very claim that the insurance adjuster sent me the link for. They think that they've got me on something, or at least they're trying to say that they might. And it was kind of an intimidating, or they're trying to be intimidating, I should say. They were attempting intimidation. Like, I got some shit on you. You can't say this stuff if it ever went to court. But the reality is I was talking in very plain terms, all the bullshit that they were doing on that claim. And I bet if the court allowed it in, the jury would love it. So I think it would probably benefit people. I think if you've got a big case, you should jump on this show and tell everybody what kind of bullshit the insurance company is doing, and then send the defense attorney a link to that show. What do you think would happen, Remington?
It just settled. Just right
instantly. It's settled. That's what this show is for. You should just tell us all the shitty claim facts from the carrier and let us publish it. And then you can win every claim.
It's that easy.
It's that easy.
We don't have to talk about efficient proximate cause. We don't have to talk about causation.
Fuck it. Just say, Allstate did some shit, let me tell you, and then you'll win instantly. Just send them a link.
Love it.
We need a disclaimer for this show. Maybe people should start identifying those water stains in the ceiling as what they truly are when dealing with those roof leaks. And then a mitigation company has to get involved. What do they say that it is?
Is he saying that they are Cat 3?
Cat 3 water is no joke. Okay. Let's talk about that, since Conrad has still refused to click the freaking link. Conrad, I know you're still watching. Schmuck. Where's the link? Okay, I'm at Kroger. I'll shop and show. All right, hang on. It's in the comments, you schmuck. Here we go. Kroger near my house that sells everything. They have shoes. They have clothing. It's a Kroger. You can literally go in there and you can buy melons and you can buy a bra.
We call that Walmart.
It's funnier if I said it the other way around. You can buy a bra and you can buy melons. See, it's funnier. Damn it. I missed it.
Hey, next show.
I'll say it right. Maybe she'll identifying what the water stains really are. So Cat 3 is an interesting thing. So Category 3 water is water that is not safe for consumption of humans. In a very generalized sense, that's what it is. It's got biological matter. It's got chemicals, whatever. If you can't drink it without becoming sick, then that's black water or Category 3 water. Water that goes through a roof is going through a lot of materials that have a lot of chemicals in them. Attics are built with a lot of materials that have a lot of chemicals in them. Insulation is not healthy to drink. There's also animals and feces from those animals and all that kind of crap in there.
Shingles.
Arguing that everything is Category 3 water is Kind of difficult with an insurance company, though, because they don't want to agree. So you're going to draw the claim out longer if you say everything's Cat 3 than if you didn't. 3 of a Class 1, so it's not so bad, maybe. But most of the time, you're just trying to get them to agree to replace the material that got wet because it's Cat 3. And to be honest, almost everything that comes from outside could be considered Cat 3. It's just the reality. So if you go to the IICRC and you look at the S500 and you look at the definitions of things, almost everything qualifies. But they're going to argue that it isn't, always. So sealing stains, really, it's Cat 3 loss because it's going through materials that a human should not be able to consume. But if the human isn't going to consume the drywall, and that's all it is a drywall stain, and when you tear it out, it doesn't disperse into the air. Is it really that much of a danger to just stay there? Do the chemicals coming from insulation and pressure-treated wood stuck inside drywall, is it at all hazardous to the health of a human that's in the same room? Not really. Not really. So if that drywall were to be painted over, would it hurt anybody? No. So I'm not saying that that's the way the claims should be handled, because honestly, if the drywall got wet, it loses fire rating and it's damaged, and there's probably going to be mold and all those other kind of issues. So it needs to be cut out anyway. But the argument is a rough argument. That's my point. It's hard to justify doing things just by saying everything is Category 3.
I agree with you. You got to be reasonable. You got to put that lens on and decide what's reasonable, what's not. Well, let's have an IICRC specialist on here, and let's really, go deep into this water mitt situation. Because like you said, we do talk a lot about roofs and everything else, but I think that'd be beneficial for everybody. And I think we'd all learn something. Speaking of that, I see somebody in the wings.
Yeah, he looks like he's driving, though. I wonder if we should pull him on. He might get in an accident. Hey, if you get in an accident, this show is going to be the most watched show ever. So I'm actually not wanting you to get in an accident. It's not true at all. I kind of want him to. It's
What's going on, buddy?
Hey, man.
Should I fake an accident? That work?
Do not know. As
certain.
the attorney on the show, you're not allowed to. Anything with accident is not allowed.
I don't even think you're supposed to be doing what you're doing. My wife would tell you that this is very illegal.
I'm hands-free. It's okay.
Okay. We can't see you anyway. Maybe this isn't the best idea, but hey, do you have anything further to add to your question? Did you ask any more? Scrolling. I don't see any more. Did we hit your question, Will?
Which question?
We were talking about Cat 3 water.
Which question?
Preferred vendor is bullshit. That's what you said, in your opinion.
Yeah, bullshit. Well, my thoughts were if somebody were to acknowledge, first thing I do when I'm on the way to the attic for the inspection on the roof, I'm looking for water stains, and most people just say, "Oh, there's a water stain. We're gonna paint your room for you." Well, if it's categorized as Cat 3, and then you've got to get mitigation in there, and you got to cut it out, and you've got to have your negative air and all that nonsense. Well, then you've got some complex work, in my opinion, that definitely deserves overhead and profit. And how would you argue that it's not justifiable to have the overhead and profit when the extent of the work is to that degree?
A lot of I feel like you're in the witness protection program right now. I can't see you at all. A lot of the carriers will argue that they don't offer overhead and profit for the mitigation side, because the mitigation company comes in usually before a general contractor is even involved, and they will do their work and then leave. They'll tear whatever it is out and then make the home stable. They won't do the rebuild, and then a GC might get involved for the rebuild. And so if general contractor's overhead and profit is paid to a general contractor, then does it even make sense? I mean, really, think about the carrier side on this. I think that they have a solid argument in many ways about some of this. So I don't think many people on the policyholder side really stop to consider if the carrier might be right. But it's possible. If the contractors that come out, if the homeowner calls a mitigation company out first, because maybe in these situations when it's a roofer that gets involved, there's already a GC, that'd be one thing. But if there isn't a GC, if it's a water loss, if it's a pipe burst, and they call the mitigation company out first and a plumber, and the homeowner's acting that way, should the homeowner be paid the overhead and profit, Remington?
Should they be paid the overhead and profit?
Ooh, can't hear you. Hey, Conrad, I'm booting you, dude. Too loud. What?
I see you, buddy.
See you. Wow, that was loud.
Yeah, he had with his
Witness
he
protection.
had straight pipes on there.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
So, but I think it's an interesting point, though. The carrier might say that they don't owe for overhead and profit for certain trades. And if the trade that got involved was hired by the policyholder before a general contractor is involved, before a GC would reasonably be used because they weren't used, would the homeowner be owed the overhead and profit?
If they didn't come out of pocket and incur that cost, I would say no.
Can a homeowner incur their own costs by using their own time and expenses?
I would say yes. I've done that before.
So their time in finding the part of a general contractor's job is to find and schedule and collect bids, right?
Absolutely.
And insurance and all that. So if a homeowner does all that, should they be owed the O&P portion of that?
I see what you're saying on that. I would say that'd be a hard sell. That would.
Something to consider.
Yeah.
All right. We got a few people in the wing suddenly. Let's see if we can find. Good Faith is in there. Still don't know what his real name is.
I think
There's
it's
a
actually
Good Faith thing. It might be. People name their people stuff. All right, I'm going to go back to the last thing from Good Faith. Here's trying to force a preferred contractor to form third party. Is there an answer to fight this without going to court? All right, I'm pulling you on Good Faith, whatever your name is. Hey there, is your name Good?
No, that is pretty good. I'm from
I didn't
Montana.
understand that at all. Audio is bad, dude. It's not working out. Do you have a headset?
Yeah, I got my headphones.
All right, I'm going to put you back on in just a few minutes.
He says he's from Montana. I can tell you this. Like, I go hunting out there once a year.
Bad reception.
The wind out there is insane. Like all the time. Like I come back and my whole face is completely red. My lips are chapped. And when I'm driving to my hunting spot and back, I'm like looking at these asphalt roofs. A lot of them are metal, but look at these asphalt roofs. Like, how are these things just not wrecked? I mean, it's literally like 40-mile-an-hour wind at a constant, like within 10 hours during the day. It's insane.
Are they really steep roofs?
No, I mean, it's regular stuff, man. It really is. So I don't know. Yeah, I kind of scratched my head of what they're doing out there that's different in some other states, but maybe
they
they
all
hip roofs out there.
Hip roofs won't have as much. And if they're all low to the, well, you're on the ground too. Montana's pretty flat, right?
No,
not even a little.
Absolutely not.
So if the houses are down in like valleys or something, then they're not going to be exposed to a lot of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But you're going to be hunting in valleys. That's a good question.
It's relentless.
Yeah. They use all those malarkey shingles. Maybe they have better actual wind resistance. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe he's got a headpiece now.
Does he? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready.
Oh, he doesn't have one.
No, it's not gonna happen. Hey man, well, I'll pull you on another time though. Hopefully we answered your question. Sorry that the audio just didn't work out. I got James in the wings too, but I don't see his video, so I don't know if he's actually able to come on either. Oh, there he is. All right, I'm going to pull James on. Here we go. Hey, James, you're muted.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Hanging in there.
Working with a homeowner who is damaged to his hardy board siding from Wendy Believes. All right, I'm going to go read the whole thing. Give me the question.
Yeah, so went out to the homeowner, sit at the house, and noticed damage. And he said that when he bought the house a few years ago, it wasn't there. And after the previous storms that we have just recently had with the hail and wind, these cracks and everything came along. And it's in areas where it's nailed, but then there's also areas right out in the center where there's no issue. So it's a little skeptical. And now they're saying that's all, another contractor put it on and that it's their issue that they installed it wrong. And I'm like, well, how can you negate that? What paperwork or documents do they have to say that that's, a contractor's fault? How can, how are they able, or how can I negate that? What steps can I take to say, no, this was, in fact, damage from the wind or hail?
Hey, here's my answer to that, because I've done this many times. Get the purchase sale agreement inspection report. See if it says anything about the hardy siding. That's what I would do. And if it has no information in regards to the damages to that siding, how can they possibly say that that's pre-existing? I've done that many of times on roofs, especially like that stuff. So there's my answer. Matt, you got anything?
I like that. That's awesome.
No, that's the way to go, man. I love that you grabbed a pen and actually started taking notes too. That was really cool.
No, I'm serious about this. You're in the Pitch Pro movement. You're going to be showing up on there, and man, I'm excited. So you guys got a lot to add, and it's great to have somebody on this side of the field to fight the fire with. So that's great.
Absolutely.
That's great.
I love it.
I don't think I even started announcing that stuff yet. We're going to start that announcement Thursday. So everybody ignore what you just heard. It didn't happen. There's no Pitch Pro movement.
Sorry about that.
You're fine. All right, thanks, James. I'm booting you.
Thanks, James.
Good Faith came back. I assume it's because he has a headset. How did that happen? Try that again.
Hey, and I want to know,
Why is he
James,
not there?
if James is still listening, I want to know the outcome of this. I want him to, if he can get that inspection report for the purchase sale agreement of that property and him provide that to the carrier. Let us know the outcome, James. I really want to know that.
I'm actually going to call him right now and let him know to start getting that paperwork together so that way we can start approaching with that. So
there you go.
Awesome. That's a very good way to go. Cool. Hey, by the way, the hardy plank guys, whatever the hardy board, if it is hardy plank or James Hardy hard plank siding, whatever manufacturer.
I'm not 100% which it is. I'm going to have to find out on that. It's just, it looks like it's one of the hardy board types.
A lot of times though, if you do find out who it is, and you have them come out as a warranty claim or something along those lines, a lot of times they'll provide a warranty for their installers. But if you have them come out as a warranty claim, they might be able to tell you, and their engineer will be sent out and they'll be able to tell you whether or not it's wind related or installation related. And it's one way to get somewhat of a free engineer. It's a good attempt anyway. But you'd have to know who the manufacturer is.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to get that figured out. So that'd be awesome. I appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Take care, buddy.
See ya. My wife said Conrad was just now a felon.
Well, is she saying? She's saying it is illegal. Yeah.
Well, she would know. She's a hall monitor at heart, for sure.
Love it.
She doesn't let me do a lot of things. We're going to have to wrap this up in a minute. What if GC coordinated MIT paid MIT as a sub while awaiting supplement? If the GC coordinated it, then a general contractor's over and profit would have been incurred by the policyholder for sure, I would assume. Here's the thing. In the guidelines, it says if it's reasonable that a policyholder would hire a general contractor, then they owe for it. If it's questionable, then they'll pay for it. if a general contractor is actually hired. So if there is a general contractor actually hired, then overhead and profit is definitely owed. And I don't care what state you're in. It's the amount that's incurred that's reasonable and necessary from the policyholder or spent, depending on the policy. There's neck tattoo. If it's owed, it's owed. Now, who gets the money? That's another question. I get the money. It's all mine. We're almost at the end of this. All right, no more comments, people. Conrad Phillips, I like to include preferred contractors on my claims to cancel that argument. They work for me, so they're prohibited to share information with carriers, and they tear what's required as my distraction. And then I bill O&P an additional percentage on top of that. They tear what's required as my distraction. That's about the best autocorrect I've ever seen. I don't know what the hell that could be. My distraction. Wow, that's impressive autocorrect.
The answer is always appraisal, no matter what.
Appraisal. How can the carrier say that the claim is not complex enough to warrant O&P? This particular claim had full siding, roof, lots of interior windows, and had the same GC doing all the work. I've had adjusters explain complexity as if 5 different tradesmen are working on the exact same wall all at the same time. And that's what they mean by complexity. But the reality is the word complexity doesn't show up in a policy. So they can't really argue it. It's a guideline. Guidelines are not in the insurance policy. What would you do in a courtroom with a jury if they were arguing that they didn't know O&P because it wasn't complex enough?
I would show them exactly step by step, every single repair, every single action that needed to occur, every single piece of material that needed to be bought to put that house in its pre-loss condition, and then show them the definition of complexity and let them make a decision. I can say this, look, we're talking full siding, the entire roof, lots of interior, windows.
And
it's going to be complex. I'm telling you, the jury of your peers is going to think that's complex. I think it's complex.
Would it even matter? Does the word complex, couldn't it even be just ignored and be like, listen, I don't know where in the policy it says anything about complexity. Would you even go down that road, or would you want to take on that whole issue of complexity there?
No, this is what I would do in this exact situation. This just hit me. I would ask them simply, the jury, would you rather hire one company to do all of this? Or would you want to be responsible for hiring a siding company, a roofing company, a lots of interior company, a window company? I would ask them that. You can't tell me who they would decide for. That's what
I love those companies. Those lots of interior companies are great.
Yeah. Lots of interior companies. Like we're talking, I mean, that's the question to ask.
What's so funny about your answer, and I'm glad that you answered it a second time. What's so funny about your answer is that is exactly how you would deal with a jury. You would simplify things to that point. But public adjusters, contractors, a lot of times we argue very detailed, very logical argument on this. And because we don't have a jury that's going to make a decision, we can't dumb it down. We're trying to make it more complex.
Yeah.
I wonder, would it be better to dumb it down as if it was a jury in our arguments? There are people that definitely employ that strategy. It's not something I do because it doesn't come easy to me, but I know that people that do that, and it's very effective. I don't know the answer to that, Hank. They definitely say whatever it is that they want to say. And so if you can't get them to back off of that, as a PA, I would argue that the complexity is not something that is written into the policy, that the policyholder doesn't have to prove that something is or isn't complex. They only have to prove that they are or aren't being charged that amount. And if the insurance company wants to disagree with it, then they have the right of appraisal in the policy. They can demand appraisal all they want, but would also have had everything submitted in that proof of loss. So that's my thoughts. Hank's been to a few of our classes, though. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
Good dude. All right. I think this is our last question. This isn't even a question. Yeah, it is. Due to roof flashing life expectancy, roof flashings should never be reused. Changed my mind. What? What? Flashing tends to last longer than most of the roofs that are installed today. Most roofs are asphalt shingles. Flashings are made of metal, but they have holes in them. If you tear off the roof and you leave holes behind in the flashings and they're damaged and they can't be reused because code doesn't allow them to be used, the manufacturers don't allow them to be used. Part of the normal charges of doing business as a roofer, part of a normal everyday re-roofing, you would replace flashing. Should never be reused. But why part of life expectancy? I don't understand.
I was leaving that one to you, but I mean, I get where it's coming from. I mean, you hit on it, life expectancy. It's metal. It's supposed to last longer than asphalt shingle. But at the same time, you tear up a roof, you replace a roof, you're going to replace a flashing. Is that what you're getting to, Matt?
Okay, he followed up. According to Xactimate, life expectancy is 35 years. Wow. What kind of metal is that? Copper flashings definitely last longer than that. So I don't. That's a weird way to ask that question. You obviously wouldn't reuse shingles. Look, here's the best answer. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is. We'll see. So in the reinstallation of materials section of the code, it says that you shall be allowed to reinstall cement, clay, tile, and slate. But they have to be in perfect condition, basically. It doesn't say flashings, but it's specifying roof covering types. Now, flashing would be an accessory for all of them. So it might not be the best argument, but flashing isn't listed there. Just below that, it says you cannot reuse flashing that is damaged, deteriorated, or rusted. So if the flashing is rusted, you can't reuse it. If it's damaged, which is usually where my arguments go if they're fighting it, saying that there's nail holes in it, because there's nails attaching these things often to the roof. And look, how do you know that a nail hole in flashing is damaged? When you go to Home Depot and you see a piece of flashing with a nail hole in it, would you buy that one or the one without it? You'd buy the one without, because the one with a hole in it is damaged and it's not going to perform its functionality of shedding water. Water would flow right through that hole. Anyway, that's really strange. They would have a life expectancy of 35 years. I wonder if that's for all flashing material. I'm not an Xactimate guru, so I don't really know. That would be really interesting to ask Andrew Behrens or Steve Harmon or someone. All right. You know what? I think we're good. There's other comments on here, but I think they're just comments. Conrad's buys his flashings without holes.
I like the everybody's comments, interaction. It was a great night, everybody. Good stuff. We hit on all kinds of topics. Matt, we're going to have a IICRC specialist here in the near future. I think that's a necessary guest to have on board.
There's we've had a few shows that had some water mitigation specialists, contractors, and public adjusters. We've had John Mulholland on here.
Yep.
And Daniel Roboski. And actually, I wouldn't mind having him on again. That dude is definitely in there. But there is a new IICRC edition of the S500, and it has much better language in it. So I really like that idea. I think we should do that very soon. So maybe I'll reach out to the guys that were on the board for writing that and see if I can't get one of them on here, one of the IICRC board guys that approves that language in there. That would be pretty cool.
Yep. Next time you have Jen Silver on, I want to make sure I'm on as well. I feel like I missed out.
No, we're never having her on again because you didn't even watch her show. Why would we if you didn't even watch it?
I was on vacation somewhere, man. My bad.
Shooting something in the face.
I love it. And,
Remington, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Next week, we have at the National Claims Institute, we have the public adjusting for attorneys class going on. You're going to be here Tuesday, is your flight real late? Are you able to be in studio with me?
I would have to double check that.
Okay. Well, that'd be pretty cool if you were.
Yeah.
We'll try to figure something out. I don't have a guest lined up for next week, so I don't have anything to tell you guys on who it's going to be. It's a surprise. That's what I should have said to begin with. Instead of saying I don't have a guest, which makes me sound lazy, I should have said next week's guest is a surprise. You're going to love it. Them, very generic, person. We'll get someone good on. It'll be good.
Love you guys.
We'll see you guys next
Take it easy.
Tuesday, 6 p.m. I'll see you guys later. Strike a weird pose, Remington. Quick.